Hi, Carl Kratz with Century 21, and I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about how to get more money when you sell your home. Whether you're in the South Carolina Low Country or many places in North America, inventory is scarce, and sellers just don't want to make any repairs or do much of anything. And I personally think they're throwing money away. If you make an effort to make a move-in ready home, people in this market will definitely pay for it. There's a real hunger and need for properties, and if somebody doesn't have to do something, you're more than likely going to have a bidding war. So let's talk about some of the basic things you should do. I know it's common sense, but you really need to make sure it's clean, top to bottom. People have an unrealistic thought process. It's like if they see dirt on the base molding, that for some reason that means the 2x4s inside the walls aren't in good condition, which makes no sense. You want to make sure that you pick up clutter, especially in the kitchen. And from my experience, if you don't feel like the house is basically stripped and naked, you probably don't have enough picked up yet, just because you're so used to living in that house that you almost don't even realize it. Closets. Ideally, you should go down to a quarter full, but not more than 3/4 full. It's a mental thing that if your closets are packed to the gills, people think you just don't have that much storage. Family pictures. A few family pictures are okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but you don't want to have your house plastered with it. What happens is people pay more attention to the pictures and they don't concentrate on your house. You want them to be thinking about living in your house and what it'll be like, not the people that are selling it and, oh, look, they're the grandkids or whatever. You want everything to look fresh. New paint job can make a world of difference. Patching all those little holes, just making everything clean and nice. If, let's say, there's linoleum peeling in the kitchen and it doesn't bother you, that's because you didn't want to have to replace it. But someone who's going to be expected to pay twice as much, let's say, for your house than you did, is probably going to have more of a problem with it. So, you want to try and think like a buyer as much as you can when you're trying to figure out what to do. I'll give you an example. I just sold a house that was 3 years old, the same house, and it was tidy with no issues, and actually sold for almost 28% more than the same model with the same finishes in the same neighborhood a year before sold for. It's crazy. We had 8 offers. It was because it looked nice, and in this particular case, it had some acreage with it. But still, it makes a difference. People actually typically make a decision on a house within the first few seconds of walking in the door. And the rest of the time, they spend justifying it. So if you have a nice segue into the house, it's going to put them in the right frame of mind. Upgrades. I think for your money, a kitchen backsplash is a great way to go, and maybe even some under counter lighting. It's not that expensive, easy to do yourself. A front door. If that wouldn't work, there are companies that will actually, let's say, put a window in a door. So maybe you could put it in to help some more light come into the house, or paint it. A fresh coat of paint. I mean, that's hardly anything. Again, we talked about landscaping. Having a tree in your yard actually whether it's in your yard or your neighbor's yard, will actually increase the price of your house. And just having it taken care of makes a difference. You have mulch or pine straw down in the beds. Everything looks like it's taken care of. And I'm not even going to go into staging and all. It is worth it. You will sell your house for more money and faster with staging, and I do recommend it. But that's a whole nother topic. One thing to think about also is go to some model homes in your area and look and see what they do, because those builders spend a lot of money figuring out what buyers want. So that you just go look in there, and that'll give you some good ideas as to what your competition is doing, and you can figure out ways to to come up with something that looks just as good, maybe even better. And you might not have to spend a bunch of money to do it. Now, how much should you spend? If you're doing it yourself, you can get away with a lot more. If you're paying a contractor, you need to get some estimates and then look at the number and see if it makes sense. But typically it does. With the contractors, it can be hard, but it's definitely something to look at if you're not handy at all. But what I will say is if you do everything, you get synergies that you don't get from just doing something here and something there. It really makes a big difference exponentially on how much of return you'll get on your money. And that doesn't mean you have to spend a ton of money. It just means that you have everything done so they don't have to do everything. I typically like to approach a listing either one of two ways. Try and do everything that you can and make it look perfect and turnkey, or do enough to where the buyers think, hey, this is good enough until I can get some more money together to do more and it's acceptable. If you do work yourself, just please make sure you do the same job that a professional would do, because if you don't, a buyer will look at that as something that they need to fix, aka lower price. If you do hire someone, please use a licensed contractor if it's something that you have to have a licensed contractor for. I know, at least in South Carolina, that if a contractor isn't licensed and you hire them, you can't really sue them. Now let's talk about some big ticket items. Roof, for example. If you have at least 5 years left on your roof, you're probably fine. The issue gets into insurance, where the buyer can buy the house, but the insurance company's going to say, well, you need to put a new roof on the house, or right away, or we're just going to jack your price up. There could be other things, mechanicals like plumbing, HVAC, depending on where they are. Down here, life expectancy is 10, 12 years on an HVAC. So if it's near the end of its life, you could put something in and charge more than it's going to cost you if you do a good job of shopping. Now, drainage, that'd be something, it depends on the situation, but I think if you have a real issue, it's something you should look at. And also keep in mind with all this, if you're doing it before you have a contract, you have a little bit more leverage on negotiating, so you can probably work a little bit better deal and you'll be better off. Bottom line, if you put a little bit of effort into making your home nicer, you're going to see a larger check at your closing. And if you have questions, please reach out to me, Carl Kratz, Century 21. Love to chat. Thanks.